All right, Paul, I got your second video that you sent over, and boy, a lot of great work you've done just in the one lesson we talked about. The first thing we worked on was tightening up your swing radius, getting your P2 position to get less out this way and more a little in tighter, keeping that right pressure point. And I'll tell you, when I saw from the video that I saw, your position at 2 and at 3 was virtually flawless. There wasn't much I could say to really repair that a little bit. It looked incredible. What I would say, and this is a rarity whenever you're working with anybody on their swing, is that typically, because any small change feels much more dramatic than it is, that when you're trying to get somebody to get their arms to move more inward or straighter back, whatever it is, the student will move it an inch more inward and it'll feel like a foot. But for you've been able to make these changes very, very quickly. The one thing that I would say now, the work that you need to do moving forward, is to make sure your upper and lower body's moving in sync in a way that makes it easiest to hit the ball solid. And so what I saw was that the mistake you were making was that your upper center, in an effort to get the shoulders to clear and open more effectively, was getting so far in front of the golf ball. And I sent you some pictures on that you turn from 2 to 3 into this position, you're just in a perfect position. And what you would do is you would lean real hard left with the upper body and the lower body. And so when I got you into 6 here, when I looked at your upper center, you got your upper center 5-6 inches in front of the golf ball. And when that happens, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to have to release number 2. You're going to have to disconnect the pressure point a little bit from up here, because if you held the pressure point and held all the accumulators intact, you would essentially miss the ball because your low point is so far forward. So what I noticed was that what you would do is you'd get from 2 to 3 in these short swings, and you get the upper center really, really far forward. I'd see you'd start throwing it away a little bit here, and then what happens is the hips stop moving, because the upper body now has gone in front of the hips. So I saw lots of shaft lean at impact. The upper center was well in front of the ball, and then what would happen is the right foot actually is kicking out now instead of banking forward, and the hips aren't pressing forward. What's happening is that the upper center is so far in front of the golf ball, you'd strike the ball, and then what would happen is you'd have to spin out, the hips would back up, the right heel's kicking out, and then you'd finish sort of in this position with your upper body, I don't know if I'm in the camera here, but your upper body would get over your hips this way, instead of having, so from 2 to 3, all you would have at this point is you'd want to sort of keep the upper center stable. Your shoulders have to continue to open, that's a definite, but from this point, the hips will slide towards the target, and the shoulders will simply open, but keep their center right over top of the ball. So the feeling you want to have especially from 4 down to 6 is that, so you're setting the radius, tilting to the top, you've got this pressure point intact, the hips are sliding, the hips go, and the upper body starts to open. And what you'll see at 6 is you'll see a little bit of axis tilt happening here. If you look on your swing, you've got your shoulders in this position at P6. And even at impact, you've got virtually no axis tilt. So when you're working on these little shots, I'd set the radius at 2, get yourself into 3, and then from 4 to 4 into 3 here, as you're going to 6, it's going to feel hip slide and an opening of the shoulders to get to this point right here. And this is where you've got to then just continue to press the hips up into the air. And so then it'll look sort of like this, where you got to keep the shaft feeling like the head is pointing at the ground still, instead of sort of kicking up like this because the upper body's rotated overward. So for you, the issue is going to be really understanding and feeling what that upper center is doing, because your first video you sent me, what would happen was, because you were a little wide and disconnected, you would get the shaft to steepen a little bit, and then your head would pull back towards the camera. Well, now your head doesn't do that at all. Your head's doing the exact opposite, which is amazing, to go from sort of this move into impact to now you've gone into this move. what you really want to find is just some stability, and that you go from 2 to 3, down into 4. You feel a little axis tilt, hips have slid outside the line, and then from there it's just continuing the rotation with the upper body and that explosion with the lower body through the shot, so that you can get your hips pressing forward, pressure points are still there, this pressure point's still on the thumb, wedges are intact, the whole 9 yards. So when you're continuing to work on these sort of half shots, I want you to feel this, whatever you're doing or thinking you're feeling to get you from 2 to 3 is perfect. It's exactly where you need to be. The question now is, can you keep the upper center stable while you're getting the lower center to move and opening? So you've got to get the shoulders to open and stay stable, and the hips to continue to press forward, and you'll see the foot bank again. The foot won't kick out. You'll see the hips be able to continue to press forward, and you'll see a little bit more axis tilt into 6, 7, and then the shaft stays in this position into 8. So I hope that helps. Keep the videos coming. Enjoy seeing the progress. Excellent work.